On GG Gang, hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to another Sunday Tesla Power Hour live stream. I got the coffee here. It's a little bit early for Juju, but I hope you have yours depending on what time zone you're in. I see everyone in the chat here. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. City, state, country. Long time no see. It's been a couple weeks since I've posted on the channel. If you're watching on replay, let me know in the comments. I should probably add that as well. Maybe how's it going? Chadwick, Sweden, Cleveland, Beach, how's it going? Here's the Juju's in the chat. I like it. Sometimes they don't render, so it's funny on my end. Robert, how's it going? Brett, we'll talk about the Wall Street crash today. Yes. So what's on the agenda? Let's talk about the agenda. Oh, audio is terrible. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Was it my music? Is it better? Is it a little bit better now? Uh-oh. I thought the audio was okay. Audio sucks. Hold on. Let me just unplug this. Let's hope it gets better. How's it going, everyone? Is my audio, like, what does it sound like? I guess I could pull it up on my phone. This is what happens when you don't stream in 2 weeks, folks. Hold on. Sounds okay. Okay. It's better. Okay, great. You know what it was? I think sometimes my cord just gets yanked a little bit more than it probably should. Okay, much better. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so no more clipping, hopefully happening here in the chat. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from, city, state, country. I'll read some out. Atlanta, Germany here. Cindy from Australia. Christian. How's it going, everyone? So many familiar faces. Yeah, Hadouken, how's it going? Norway, Marco, how's it going, my friend? Audio sucks. Hopefully it's better now. Tony, hopefully you heard the first time I said hi. Too loud. Okay, it's my voice. Yes, so in case you guys don't know, so it's been a couple weeks since I've posted on the channel. My last post was with Jeff Lutz when we did an awesome interview with Jeff, and since then I basically got COVID, pretty sure, on the day that I was interviewing him. So when you watch that video, I was on the precipice of pretty much getting full on sick, and I was out of it for like 5 days. And even the 5 days after that, mentally, I couldn't think straight. I don't know what it was. I feel a lot better now, so I'm back. Sounds like AM radio. John, how's it going? Glendale, California. Okay, great. I'm just catching up on the chat here. Amy, how's it going? From the mountains of Tennessee. Very nice. Marco says it's better. Great. Austria, how's it going, Michael? Okay, just catching up to everything. Thank you, Duke, and appreciate that very much. And it wasn't even that like I was sick and bad, and like it was just like mentally. You ever have one of those weeks where like you're forgetting things? You're like, how did I forget that? Or it was just mentally I was off. I mean, more than usual, because as you guys know, I'm mentally off all the time, right? Good now. Okay, great. Germany. DJ, how's it going? Catching up. Ottawa, Southern California, Colorado. Man, the Juju Gang is in town. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We got a good crowd today. We're going to talk a lot about Tesla with Ron Barron's analysis, the HSBC report that came out, that short seller report. We'll talk a little bit about Cybertruck. We'll talk about stock action first, though, as soon as I finish these chat comments from cities. From Sweden, how's it going, Ben? Another Sweden, Ventura County still, says Tony. Probably sunny down there. Scotland, Cape Cod, Plymouth, Bulgaria. Ooh, Marco, you're really gonna test me with this one. Hugo Ward. How's that? Victoria, BC, local. Hey, how's it going? The stocks market. Vancouver, Washington, the other Vancouver. There we go. Ohio. T. Nelly says, hope you're masterminding the perfect education advertising campaign for Tesla. Over 50% of the US population literally despises Elon. Something needs to be done ASAP. Interesting talking point, T. Nelly. Okay. Scotland, I'm just going to blast through these. Germany. Getting old is difficult. Yeah, no kidding. How's it going, Paco from South Africa? My friend from Missouri Exploration. Happy Diwali. Yes, happy Diwali to everyone. In case you celebrate. Dear K, I saw your post today on X. Geneva, Illinois. Okay, I'm pretty much caught up here. And yes, happy, well, I guess Veterans Day down in the States. Remembrance Day up in Canada was yesterday. Thanks to everyone that served. Okay, let's do it. Malaysia. Hey, Sanjay, how's it going? Malaysia, Prince George, and Chadwick, as usual, from Cleveland. Okay, So let's get into some of the action that I wanted to talk about. I'm a little bit foreshadowing here about Ron Barron, but first let's get into stock price action. So in the last 5 days, Tesla is down 4.26%. I titled this stream that Tesla crashes on HSBC report. And in case you didn't hear about this, essentially we got this, I don't want to say scathing, but pretty ugly Wall Street report from HSBC that contributed to a big fall out in Tesla this week. Now, big is relative because, as you know, as Tesla investors, 5% here or there really doesn't mean much to us anymore. But if you look at it comparatively to, let's say, Apple was up 5.6% in that same time frame. Rivian was down 14.5%. Now, what happened to the chicken genius that said Rivian was going to outperform Tesla? I guess it did, but on the downside, 3-1. The Nasdaqs were up to the week 3%. So that's the biggest. This is the biggest tell, right? That Tesla was very weak this week. If the Nasdaq's up 3%, Tesla should be up, I don't know, closer to 4 to 6%. Instead, Tesla was down 4%. So this week, I think a big portion of the EV market was hit with that report. Lucid had a bigger drop this week. Let me plug in Lucid here, actually. I just saw your comment there. Let's plug in Lucid. Lucid down 18.89%. Currently all-time low, says Sanju. So Lucid is ugly. Yes, I don't think we... it is bad. Yes, it's bad. And of course, it's not looking like it's going to get any better for them anytime soon. So if we go into, and Gary Black, I think, summarizes this quite well for us, but I'm going to go into his thread on Twitter, on X, and go through it. So yesterday's HSBC report, Gary says, carries a reduced rating with a $146 price target that relies on the classic reversion to the mean analysis. Okay. And it seems more than how one would value a slow growth legacy auto company rather than a high growth tech stock like Tesla. The research team uses two common approaches: discounted cash flows, DCFs, and multiple based to derive their $146 valuation. The DCF the DCF approach presumes huge Tesla EV share losses. Oh, I want to keep it bigger. That's what she said. And most critically, a 2.5% terminal earnings growth rate assumption. This leads to a $201 share discounted cash flow based valuation. Okay, so there's a lot of jargon here. If you don't like finance, I'll just summarize it in this way. And actually, I'll just show you guys this graphic here, right? So the discounted cash flow based on fair value they have is around $200 on Tesla. They weight that at 50%. Then they measure Tesla based on multiples on fair value, and it comes out at about $92. And so they weight those equally, and they get to a weighted average fair value. This is quite the interesting way to value Tesla, in my opinion. Anyways, but they get to $146 a share. And so, of course, at $216 a share, that implies a 33% downside. Now, the thing to remember with this is, valuations models are like picking your favorite dessert. There's a million options out there. Some people like tiramisu. Some people like creme brulee. Some people hate sugar. So there's really no right or wrong way to do it. There are certain classic ways that I think are more prevalent in Wall Street. This is one here. You don't see this kind of combination weighted average multiple / DCF combination very often. It's not something that I have typically seen. DCF by itself makes sense. Slap it on a PE off of forward earnings, discounting that back. That's another way that you could do it. But this is quite the interesting way to do it. Gary goes on to say, the DCF approach that the team uses commits what I consider 3 fatal mistakes in their analysis. 1, it assumes that Tesla volume growth grows from 1.8 million cars this year to just 5.9 million cars in 2030. Okay, throw in the chat. How many deliveries in the millions does Tesla do in 2030? Throw in the chat. HSBC here has at 5.9 million in 2030, and that presumes an 18% CAGR, so less than the EV adoption CAGR itself, which I assume grows from 12% to 60% by 2030. Gary is at about 10.2 million cars for Tesla selling in 2030. Jonas says 10 million cars in 2030. DRK says 15 million cars. Of course, Tesla has that internal stated goal of 20 million cars by 2030. 7.4, 11, 16. Jeff, I'll start your questions and I'll come back to them towards the end of the segment. But I have started them. 5.9, 14, 13. Okay. So, and that's to be expected. So Alex actually says, or Alexis says, 5.9 should come in 2025. The average millennial investor says 50% of 5.9 and 50% of 10.2. Nice. So what is that? 7 point something? 20 million. Tyler, how's it going? 12 million, says Tyler. 20 by 2033. Okay. So that's, as Gary says, that's the number one fatal mistake in his view that they make, is that they really, really undersell what Tesla will be able to do in 2030 at 5.9. Just a side note, I had to stop the other day. 2030 is really not that far away, folks. Well, we're 2 months out from 2024. 2030 in my head has always been this like far out, like, ways to go. But now I'm looking at 2030. I'm like, wow, like 2030 is going to come here before we know it. Anyways, number 2, Gary says the fatal mistake is it assumes that average selling price, ex regulatory credits, will fall from 45.6 thousand in 2023 to 31.9 thousand in 2030. Even though Cybertruck will raise Tesla's average selling price once it scales, my 2030 average selling price is 47.5K versus 45.6K today. So this is another question I'm going to throw in the chat. What is Tesla's average selling price with your guess that you put in? So if you put in 10 million cars that Tesla is going to sell in 2030, what is the average selling price for that said car, for all the said cars, I should say, in 2030, if your number is indeed to be right? Now, I think Gary actually might be a little bit high, and I'll get into Ron Barron's theory here as to the $25,000 model, but I think Gary might be honestly a little bit high here. Not by much, but I think like he's going up from here to get to 10 million. Yeah, so I'm more in that range as well, as you guys are saying. So 40K, yeah, 40K, that's closer to where I'm at, because I'm looking at the $25,000 model that Ron Barron says is coming out, teaser, if you haven't watched it already. And I'm just doing quick basic math and saying, well, if unit volumes come from the lower end cars, well, that's going to drag down average selling price. 35,000, 36,000, 25,000. Yes, exactly. Average selling price includes FSD much higher than 30,000. So that's a great observation, actually, Michael. Something to think about. But here's what I would argue. Here's what I would push back on. Who's to say by 2030, FSD is not just subscription? If I'm Tesla, I solve FSD. I am not selling that as a lifetime package anymore. I'm just doing subscription. I'm milking the subscription to the cows come home. ASP in 20,000 is 28, and 2030 is 28,000. 30,000 today's money. So, although I think Gary is closer to being right, well, hold on. What is HSBC's? They have 31,000. 32,000, let's just round up. So I don't know if it'll fall by that much. Again, remember, Tesla could release the Roadster, could release higher end tier models and bring up their average selling price. Tesla is unique in the sense where I think if Tesla came out with a $1.5 million car, like the Roadster on steroids, on crack, and they sold that in the way that like Lamborghini or Rolls-Royce sell in that same kind of tier, I think they would sell out. So number 3, Gary says they randomly assume a terminal growth rate of 2.5%, which implies a terminal free cash flow multiple of 13 times 1 over 10.3 minus 2.5, which is less than the S&P free cash flow multiple. My terminal multiple is 30 times, or a 1.5 price to earnings growth ratio, and it assumes forward PE valuation growth, or PE growth, of 20%. These 3 assumptions lead to an EV-only valuation of $78 a share. HSBC adds energy storage and financial and services to get to a current state of a Tesla valuation of $404 billion. HSBC then gives credit to FSD, Dojo, Optimus, which produces another $307 billion valuation to get to a total discounted cash flow valuation of around $200 a share. So that's their DCF valuation. We don't need to go through their multiples approach because I think it's kind of boring. And the general point is that they have a fair value multiple or a fair value with their multiple approach at $92 a share. $92 a share. So that in and of itself is what that's what the model that they're using. It's a 108-page report. 108-page report. So the interesting part is whenever a firm spends this much time on a company, right? They either do it for two reasons. One is if you're spending this much time analyzing a company at 108 and you're coming in and it's such a bad market value for you at $108 a share, yet you're looking at this company with such a fine-tooth comb, it's either one of the biggest short positions that you have or that you recommend to your clients, or you are putting this report out for notoriety, right? For attention. One of the two. And if they really believe this valuation, well, I mean, logic would only dictate that they would be short Tesla at that point. And they're kind of screaming from the mountaintop saying everyone should short Tesla. So either they're short Tesla or they're putting this 108-page report out to just gain some notoriety. I mean, you guys can let me know which one you guys think it is. Thank you, Mimi. Appreciate that. Hit like and subscribe to support the channel. I appreciate that, Mimi. Thank you very much. Yes, please do so. Remember, we're going to juice the algo a little bit now that I haven't been posting for a couple weeks. I will clip parts of this stream out as well. So if you miss any part of it, it should be out later. Okay, so that's the multiple approach. Or that's the HSBC report. I'm going to also throw on, if anyone, actually, I will post shortly the StreamYard link. If anyone wants to guest stream into StreamYard, feel free to. Tina says, question, HSBC said that if Tesla does indeed solve FSD in the future, FSD will only account for 14% of the company's value. How can you take that analysis seriously? Well, logic would dictate that if Tesla were to solve something as monumental as FSD, that, I mean, 14% in and of itself doesn't mean anything if the company's valuation is 10 trillion or whatever, something insane. But I think what we're implying here is that they're not giving much credit to FSD, even if it's solved, which I don't see the case for that because, again, FSD open. Here's the thing with FSD, right? At 99% solved, FSD is hard to value. At 100% solved, it's immediately like one of the biggest catalysts to the economy, right? Robotaxis driving everywhere, supply chains, last mile, insert, Uber, taxi, whatever it is. But at 99%, it's harder to evaluate that because you're like, is this just going to be asymptotic? Are we ever going to get to a point where we can trust this, right? So yeah, to answer your question, I don't think a lot of Tesla bulls are taking HSBC's report very seriously. That's the thing. Jeff, I'm answering a question now. Hey, Yash, I ordered a Model Y. I like Tesla, but my main issue is that they use vision and don't have blind spot detection on the side mirrors. Also, my insurance was close to $8,000. Whoa, Jesus. Should I wait until a Highland model comes out next year since it's got the blind spot near the side? Does Highland, I think you mean Highland here. Does Highland really have the blind spot detection the same way though? I don't know. First of all, $8,000 for your insurance. I thought my insurance was high. I'm not sure it sounds like you're in Canada. I think I read one of your comments. I'm not sure what province you're in, but try to shop that around. If you're in BC, try to go to BCAA or Westland Insurance or something to shop the optional part of it out. That is insanely high. But the blind spot detection, someone's gonna have to tell me in the comments if blind spot detection. Okay. So you're near BC. So if you're in BC, go to BCAA, shop. So just buy the ICBC mandatory insurance. Go to BCAA and shop the optional part of your insurance, which is probably where you're getting it. You're a new driver. Fair enough. Still go to BCAA and try to get it. You have to shop the optional part of your insurance out. You have to. Otherwise, you're going to get screwed. Don't go to ICBC for everything. Just get the mandatory, which I think will be like $1,600 for you as a new driver, and then shop out the optional part. As for the blind spot detection, I'm just reading the comments here. Tony actually has an answer for us. Model 3 Highland does have a blind spot indicator. Red light in that speaker near the corner where side view mirror connects. Okay, great. Actually, I had someone on Twitter that I reposted, quite a big Twitter name, who actually didn't want to buy another Tesla because it didn't have a blind spot detection. In my personal opinion, in driving the Tesla, I've never driven a car with blind spot detection. I know it kind of like beeps and it has like the light on, so you know, like just like don't turn lanes. But to be fair, when I turn on my signal, I just look at the camera and I can tell if someone's coming in. I don't know. There's nothing really wrong with the old school way of just turning your head, right? Shoulder turn. Nothing wrong with that either. Do you want to, is it something that I would personally wait for as a feature? No. But then again, I don't even know what the timeline is. I think the timeline is middle of next year for North America. So I don't even know if that is going to happen anytime soon. So hope that answers your question. But definitely shop that optional part of your insurance out. You have to. You have to. You have to. Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone in the chat has an answer to this, but Highland coming to the US, isn't it like middle of next year? And so if that's the going rumor, can we not just throw it to the end of next year? Like, I think it's a while to go. I think it's a while to go. So Optimus is another one, right? With Optimus and robotaxis. Optimus is interesting because I think Optimus is not necessarily just about earnings, EBITDA, multiple. I think Optimus is a function to which Tesla can lower their own cost of goods. That's the way I look at Optimus right now. Of course, there's that external perspective of Optimus where Tesla can sell these bots to whoever, make a bunch of money off of it. But I just look at Optimus right now. If Tesla can just solve Optimus to a degree where it solves a percentage of their labor issues, that's immediate cost savings for Tesla. And so Tesla can eat their own dog food in that respect. And of course, the long game for Tesla is not to have, and of course, like they're going to exhaust it at a certain point where marginal benefit equals marginal cost. It's not worth for them having another bot. And then at that point, they'll sell them out. But yeah. Let's see here. Would be great. Hadouken says if Highland Model 3 utilizes the ambient lighting blind spot detection. A lot of people like that. And I think if you move from like a Mercedes or something, like those are very, like even Toyotas now, they all have them, right? Tinali says, do you think that the November 30th Cybertruck release event, which by the way, I have not gotten an invitation for, will move the stock meaningfully? If not, what do you see as the next catalyst? That's a great question. I don't know if it's going to move. I don't know if it's going to move the stock meaningfully anymore. I think if you get from the event full specs, full pricing, a full wait list, and it's basically like, here's everything you need to know. And that's the opposite of the Tesla Semi event, right? Tesla Semi event was kind of shrouded in mystery. People don't really know the specs of it. If it's the opposite end of that, I can see it being a little bit of a catalyst. But I think the issue is that we also don't know how many they're going to deliver, right? So if they just do like a little celebratory, here's 50 Cybertrucks that are delivered, great. And then do they continue the pipeline from there at the speed that we all want them to? Elon sandbagged this to oblivion. So maybe because he sandbagged this, my expectations are very low now. And maybe that's good. And maybe that does mean that there's going to be there's going to be a stock push on that. But you know, I don't know. I guess I'll throw it back to the chat. Cybertruck event, catalyst or not? Okay. So throw it on stream. Cybertruck event, catalyst or not? Jan says, yeah, she as you get older, that just turn your neck and shoulder becomes painful and difficult. Fair enough. But to answer the second part of your question, Tinelli, what's the next catalyst? Um, I think macro. I think macro. Everything I think about with the stock market today doesn't start with Tesla as much as it starts with what is going on with macro. Everyone and their mom wants to know, are we headed towards a recession? If you guys didn't hear, Canadian GDP numbers came out, growth numbers came out. And, bear with me. I know you guys don't care about Canadian economic data, but it came out, and technically our GDP growth has shrunk for 2 straight quarters, which means it's a technical recession. Now, that's welcomed news to me because, of course, for the Fed or the Bank of Canada to pause interest rate hikes, and if not lower interest rates, there has to be substantial damage done in their view. It's an ugly, ugly position that we're in, but we're in a position, I shouldn't say we, the Fed is in a position where they need to see destruction before they can ease. And we're at a point now where everyone is just focused on, well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of discourse online is focused on housing. People are wondering, okay, with housing, when is it going to turn over? It's been a while since we've heard major housing updates. Of course, housing is very dynamic and based on location, but housing is one of those big things that people are looking towards. Alexa says, so many TikToks talking about nobody being able to afford anything. Okay, so here's my gripe. We have to be careful with the sources of news that we paint. And this is not a shot at you at all, Alexis, because I see those on Twitter as well. And here's what I have to say. Don't be surprised if the videos that you see of people essentially painting this melodramatic view of the economy, and don't get me wrong, it is like that in pockets for people, but painting this melodramatic view of the economy across the nation is not state funded by external parties or by bad actors. I don't need to get more specific than that. I hope you get my point here, but there is a propaganda campaign out there to paint stuff worse than it is. And that's not new. Everyone knows that in this chat. But specifically today, of course, there's this disincentive to be positive in today's world, right? If I'm negative out there, I'm going to get 10 times more engagement on my stuff. If I go out there and roast people, I'm getting 10 times more engagement on stuff. So there's this inverse incentive to be a good person. But there's also propaganda out there that you have to be very careful towards, and specifically TikTok, of where you get your news from. Where you get your news from. And that's not to say I'm perfect and I'm telling you everything that you should know. That's not my point. My point is, seriously, question every source that you hear out there. It's just not safe out there. It's not safe out there. But back to your inflation point, I think we're actually about to hit deflation very soon. I actually think we're gonna touch deflation in this economy in the next 18 months. I know, hot take. I think it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Let's see here. So everyone seems to agree, and from the chat, Cybertruck event will not be, actually, no, Arrow says it will be a huge catalyst, not minor, but the majority of people, so the majority of chat here agrees that we don't think it's going to be a big come out party for Cybertruck. And we can put a pin in this topic later about social media and pessimism. But let's talk about Ron Barron and coming on CNBC. Now, if you haven't heard, Mr. Ron Barron has come back on CNBC to talk about Tesla, and he's making headlines with this $25,000 model vehicle commentary. Now, first thing I just want to throw out is what's interesting is it just me, or is Ron coming on mainstream media to talk about Tesla far more than he used to in the last little bit? I want to say this is the second time in a month he's come on CNBC to talk about Tesla. Now, that's not me complaining about it. I love hearing from Ron. But I'm keeping that in the back of my head as, why is Ron coming on so much? Because, of course, he's probably requested all the time. But the guy only comes around once in a while. And, of course, I guess in this case, there's this conference, so maybe he's promoting that. But that's the second time in a month that we've heard from Ron. Maybe I'm reading too much in between there, but throw in the comments if you think there's anything to that. Let's hear what he has to say about Tesla.
As we always do, but then I want to...
And let me know if the audio is clear.
Sort of broaden it out and talk about the markets and some of the other companies that you're invested in. There was an analyst call just yesterday, this is HSBC, which really initiated coverage. They said that their price target was $146. I assume you probably looked at this and probably laughed given your very bullish views on Tesla. But what was so interesting about the report was that they really were trying to define the company as an EV automobile maker. Is that the way you think about this company?
I think about it as a technology company that's providing services to their own company and to others. They can't possibly be matched by anyone else. They have data, technology. They make cars cheaper than anyone else. When Ford makes one of these cars, an electric car, every car they make, they lose $36,000 on. $36,000 per car. Our company now makes about $8,000 or $9,000 in profit a car. They were making $15,000 in profit a car. But if they build a plant that costs $7 billion for 1 million cars, that plant was making $15 million a year, $15 billion a year on a $7 billion investment. $15 billion on a $7 billion.
Now, to be fair, I think the cost of building these factories have probably gone up a little bit from 7 billion, maybe around 12 or 10. But his point still stands.
Investment. An ordinary industrial company would make 15% on capital, 20% the most. This guy's making his capital twice a year. Now he's making it once a year. He's making $8 billion in a $7 billion plant. So he's the lowest cost person. Everything about the business is trying to drive prices lower. Right now, they will be in a very, in the 1900s, early 1900s, the automobile companies were tremendous innovators. No longer is the case. In the 1950s, they decided they were going to go for profitability, and they outsourced all of their supply chain to their detriment. And all these companies went bankrupt. Hundreds of them went bankrupt. And now the way we're going is that their electric cars, they drive, I guess they have about 30 miles a day, 30 or 40 miles a day, and they have 3 million of them that are collecting data. 100 million miles a day they're getting for data, and then they're also getting compute that they're going to have more compute than anyone in the world in 18 months.
So he's talking about FSD, compute power, data. But remember, Tesla doesn't just get data from cars that have FSD. Tesla gets data from every single car that's opted into data sharing, right? And again, Tesla can run FSD in ghost mode, in shadow mode, and continue to run their analysis on it. So data is not the problem for Tesla. The problem for Tesla, like Ron says, is compute power, and they're getting a lot more of it in teraflops moving forward.
To train it.
Have you been surprised, and this is true of the other EV makers, a lot of EV makers have put up big goals in terms of sales, and then they've scaled those goals back, saying there's just not the customer demand. Do you think that is the responsibility or a function of the products that these other automakers are putting out? Or do you think that there actually isn't the demand for EVs writ large that maybe was anticipated or expected?
There's 1.5 billion cars that have to get replaced. They do about 80 million cars a year, and a small percentage of those, 10%, are electric right now. Ultimately, it's going to be all electric. But the reason there's not more demand is the cars that are out there are not very attractive by the dealers, by the car companies, and they're expensive, number two. And then in addition to that, the dealers who sell them, they don't want to sell them because there's nothing to service. The dealers make all their money on servicing. Yeah. So dealers sell them, they're not selling them.
Such a key point right there, right? With EVs, you don't have the monthly oil changes, the tuning, the timing belt needs to be redone at a certain point. All the pistons, maybe like some of the pistons might be off. You have everything with the engine that could go wrong. And on top of that, you have this mysterious element to when you go bring your gas car into the auto mechanic, he could say anything. Let's be honest, and throw in the chat if you've had an experience like this. You go in for what you might think is a little cheap thing, couple $100, and he comes out and he says, "You know what? Everything is wrong with your car. And if you don't fix it, it might this thing might collapse on the side of the road. It's $1,200, $2,000." I think we've all experienced that, and that's how they make their ongoing money. And that's a key reason why a lot of dealers give free oil changes as a part of buying a car from their dealership. Because it's a long con, right? It's a long con.
Talked about trying to bring prices down, and that's something that Elon Musk has talked a lot about. At the same time that he's going to try to bring prices down, you have the potential for Tesla to become a target of the UAW, which of course just made this new deal with the other big automakers at meaningfully higher prices in terms of what those employees are going to be getting. What do you think about that?
I think Tesla's employees are the highest paid workers in the world as far as the automobile companies go, because they own stock.
As a function of the stock.
And that stock option would not be present in all instances if it were a unionized company. When the unions were in control of Fremont, as soon as they had trouble, they ran from it. Tesla took over that plant in Fremont after the unions had left, after the company had gone bankrupt. Tesla employees, there's a good story that one of the executives of, and then I want to talk about it.
Yeah, no, of course.
One of the executives who devised the pay plan for the employees was telling me that he's a small Jewish guy like me, and he was walking through a plant, and a large black man walks over to him, shaved head, tattoos all over the place, and says, Ira, are you the man who devised the pay plan for us? And he said, yes. He said, I want you to know that I'm the first man in my family, the first person in my family to ever be able to afford a home. And thank you very much. And so the workers there make more than anyone else by far, and their health care, all the benefits are better. The unions have been trying to organize Tesla, Toyota, all the foreign companies for years. They failed repeatedly. Why? Because those companies are not, the union's not in business to keep the employees. They're in unions to have the power.
Before we move off Tesla, just for
by
a
the way,
second.
the stock went down yesterday, not because of that report.
Okay, what do you think it is?
Because of Joe Biden, President Biden, who, by the way, I love what he's doing for Israel, but I don't like that much what he's doing in business. Some things I like. But he's the one who said unions should organize Tesla. That's what happened.
Does Biden really carry any weight? Let's be honest. Let's be honest. No offense. What Biden says, I don't think carries really any weight for what the stock should do, in my opinion. We all know where Biden stands with Tesla stock and what he actually thinks about it. Interesting commentary from Ron Barrett.
Yesterday when the stock went down.
Okay, we'll come back to the Biden piece in just a second. Melissa Lee, I think, has a quick Tesla question because I know I want to talk to you about a whole bunch of other things. Melissa?
Yeah, Ron, thanks for taking my question. When you think about China, how do you think about the growth there? Because that's a key piece to the Tesla story. Li Auto reported its earnings yesterday and had strong EV guidance. It's gaining market share. I'm just wondering how you think about the competition, but also the weakening Chinese consumer. And have you discounted that portion of the Tesla story at all, given the Chinese economic forecasts out there?
Tesla right now is doing about 1.8 million cars a year. When we started investing in the company 7 years ago, when we invested between 2014 and 2016, they were doing 41,000 cars a year. So 41,000 cars a year to 1.8 million, they're on their way to 20 million cars. China is about 1 million right now of their 2.8 million. But a large percentage of what they make in China is exported from China to Europe. And the more they build in Europe, of course, the more they're going to save on transportation costs and duties. The idea is that China invited Musk in, and invited him in because the Chinese car companies have done very poorly for a long time. And the promise was that he's going to help them become better car manufacturers, and he's not trying to take over the market in China, better car manufacturers and develop a local supply chain. And so he was the only one that's ever been invited into China that's been able to not have a partner, a local partner, to operate their business.
Yeah.
So I'm convinced that they have good operations in China. The person who runs their Chinese business, the Tesla business in Austin, in fact, is probably in line to be an important person at Tesla overall. He's Chinese, and he was brought from China to Texas. And
he's talking about Tesla.
There. He's going to be in charge of all the automobile business. So I think the relations they have with China are exceptionally good. Both people are getting something from it, and I think that business will continue to grow. But he's going to open plants all around the world for low-cost cars. And wait till you see what's going to happen when all of a sudden they start selling cars instead of for $40,000 a piece, for $25,000 a piece, which is going to happen in about a year and a half from their new model. The new model, they think, is going to do 5 million cars a year. 5 million cars a year for the Model 2. That's coming.
So he just throws that in right at the end to talk about the Model 2 and what's happening there. What I find interesting, I'll talk about China just for a quick hot second first, just because I think China is an interesting part of this conversation. Look, when the Chinese economy was doing really well a few years ago, The ongoing narrative was the Chinese economy is doing well. Why would any Chinese consumer continue to want to buy Tesla cars when there's so many other quote unquote better options out there for Chinese consumers? So there was that anti-Tesla narrative then. Now that the Chinese economy has kind of shown its true colors, and the numbers we can all agree are a little bit fabricated, let's be honest. What was inflation, like 1% or something like that not too long ago? Anyways, I forget what number that was, but it was just clearly like anyways. But now the economy is doing bad, of course, evidently. And now the ongoing narrative is, how will Tesla sell cars? As Ron Baron astutely points out, China is used for an export hub for the excess amount of cars that they build in China. And Tony actually throws in the comments about this is why Tesla and India rumors have been coming out quite a bit. Now, you guys know where I stand with Tesla, China, their codependency. Remember, China gets something out of Tesla being there. Tesla is one of the few companies that is able to operate in China without having CCP ownership within the company, right? Remember, to operate a big enough company in China, you will have the government's hands in all of your business, and they will be a co-owner with you, right? And so for Tesla to exist and thrive in China, there has to be an ongoing back and forth. This is just basic logic that China is also getting something from Tesla being there. And in my opinion, what they're getting is a lot of top-notch manufacturing techniques. And of course, I think educating the entire labor base on how to do this. Of course, I think a lot of the technology that happens from China or in China for Tesla makes its way to other companies, XPeng being, of course, one of the obvious examples of just basically copying. So I think these India rumors are always interesting. Do I believe the India rumors? No. Here's what I think about India and Tesla is that good luck, right? The Indian government is like, if you look at the import taxes they place on cars coming in, it's insane. It's like 100%, right? India is not willing to bend over backwards to bring Tesla in. In my opinion, all of these are just rumors and they will stay as rumors. Maybe they're just leverage points for other countries, but I would be very shocked if Tesla made their way into India. Now, I wish that they did. I wish that Tesla could Trojan horse their way in, trying to sell them cars and actually fix their entire energy grid and the big issue that India has with energy there. Because if you can stabilize the grid in India, like that's a huge humanitarian issue. And of course, a lot of people have this view, right? China represents a very dangerous wild card for Tesla. And of course, by Tesla building more factories, by Tesla diversifying their plant base, a lot of this goes out the window, hopefully. But Tony says, how big is the market in Berlin Model Ys in India if tariffs come down? I don't know if the market is as big as we think, because the average car price in Tesla or in India is, I think, like under 15 grand, right? So I don't know if it's huge. Of course, you're going to have those top 1% that are going to buy everything. But I think Tesla really it's a Trojan horse play in the most positive sense of the term. It's a Trojan horse play for Tesla to make their way into India, to sell them on autos as the shiny new thing that they all want, and then kind of bait and switch them into actually fixing the grid issue that India has and stabilizing the grid. Because anyone that's been to Southeast Asia knows how hard it is to find stable energy in Southeast Asia. So yeah, and Starlink is a completely different topic that we can get into, and of course, a big one, right? Let's see. Yes, India needs mega packs and 4680s for electrified two-wheelers. I don't think the two-wheeler situation will happen, Tony, just because disregard that comment. That's a wrong link. Just because I think Elon doesn't believe in the safety aspect of it. But yes, hold on. So that link that I posted, I'm trying to delete it now. Hold on one sec. That link is not accurate. If anyone wants to come on stream, I'll open it up for the next little, I don't know, 10 minutes here. If anyone wants to come on stream and talk about Tesla, ask a question, do whatever it is. Maybe one of the mods can delete my comment because that link will not work. It's this link. Join the stream. I'm just going to post this link if anyone wants to come in here and join the stream. So it's this one that I'll pin up here Blake, how's it going? Just saw you there. Xander, how's it going, my friend? Okay, let's see. Okay, my chat is really slowly catching up, so you're gonna have to give me a second. But yes, if anyone wants to click on that join the stream link, feel free to come in, ask a question. You can do it on your phone as well, as long as you have a mic. Okay, so Ron Barron coming on, and at the end, he just casually threw in, yeah, and Tesla's going to be selling this $25,000 model car, and they're going to sell 5 million of them, blah, blah, blah. Here's my question, right? Here's my question with the $25,000 model. Are we not there yet, right? If I go to Tesla.com and I go to the American website, hold on here, one sec. Let me just select United States. If I come into the United States and I come to the Model 3, right? If I come to the Model 3, are we not there yet, folks? Okay, hold on one sec. I got to turn on this. I'll throw a chat on the left-hand side here for a second. I'll throw my fat face on the bottom left. Are we not here yet? A Model 3, well, okay, I guess if you do purchase price, a Model 3 purchase price is $39,000, right? $39,000. Right? So okay, yeah, no worries. I guess as long as my decent one is pinned up, we are fine. Join the stream, that one. Let me pin it now. Okay, go look at the pin message. Go there. Thanks, guys. Thanks, mods. Are we not there yet? Right? A Model 3 costs $39,000, no tax rebates. In some states, someone tell me what state has the most. Is it Oregon that has the most? Some states you can get what, $7,500. You can get $10,000. Like, we're really close to that $25,000 model already. Like, what are we really doing by bringing this 25? Is it 25 minus another 8 that we're trying to debate on? And is that going to increase market size? You know, I guess maybe it will. Priyon, thank you for the super chat. What period will be the most important for Tesla, also for the stock? 2018 to 2022 or 2023 to 2027? Also, do you have an opinion on the Tesla Swedish strike? I do not have an opinion on this, but I know Mimi has been keeping us up to date on Discord on this a little bit. So I'm a little bit uneducated, so I won't necessarily comment on that. But I think it has to be 2023 to 2027. Of course, you could argue 2018 to 2022 without it, Tesla wouldn't even be alive today. So, I mean, I guess there's that. But I think for Tesla's major leg of their growth story, the next 4 years are vital, and namely, I'm thinking FSD. The Oregon money is gone already. Colorado has high rebates, so I mean, we're already at the $25,000 model already, are we not? So that's my question that I have whenever I hear about the $25,000 model, Model 2 or whatever it's called. Let me bring on our first guest of the show. Hold on right here. I'll bring on our friend, Tony. How's it going? Tony, you might have to unmute yourself there.
Hey, Yash, how are you doing, man?
Good, good. How are you? Looking nice and sunny in California, eh?
Yeah, it's actually still warm. I think our first winter storm's coming through this week, though. So we'll get a first little bit of rain.
A little bit of rain. I guess that's what you call winter down there, huh?
Yeah, for the most part. It's like rainy or, yeah. But so something that I've been thinking about, meaning to ask you, because you seem to be one of the biggest proponents for advertising for Tesla, and you also seem to have the most knowledge about it. And I'm curious where you would rank, I guess, like host-read ad reads on either YouTube channels or podcasts, and like how effective those are. Because I was thinking about I guess what we traditionally think of as advertisements be like a Super Bowl advertisement or an ad on like the nationally televised NBA games, right? It seems to me that if you were to instead of like a 30-second ad that might play a couple times during NBA on TNT or whatever, you were to put a 2-minute ad read on like the top 10 NBA podcasts you could find, it would probably be cheaper. And I think it would also be more effective in terms of just, you can get more of the relevant information that you want like the audience to receive in that ad read than you could in a 30-second ad. I mean, like, those 30-second ads on TV just seem completely ineffective to me. And I know in the past when you've talked about ads, it's primarily been like search engine stuff or social media or
YouTube.
Facebook or whatever. But I'm curious where you think of that. And also it's interesting that this kind of dovetails with, like, we've heard Elon in the past say he wants Tesla's advertising, to the extent that they do it, to more resemble content. And like in that model, you're virtually creating content. I mean, like a lot of these content creators, like, they're not making that content if someone isn't sponsoring them with an ad read. So that has its own sort of unique quality to it too.
Well, it's interesting you say that. It's kind of like, Athletic Greens, for example. Athletic Greens is all over, right? But here's what they do that's different that I don't think Tesla is able to do right now. If Tesla made their affiliate program not based on if you refer someone, you get 6 months supercharging credit, or if you refer someone, you get 10,000 points on your Tesla system. If it was straight cash as a cash payout, you would already see that stuff happening right now, like you see with Athletic Greens. What Tesla needs to do simply to really put that on steroids is if they made their affiliate program cash payable. If they said for every Tesla car that you refer with your link, you get a $250 payout, and it's paid out through this program. There's a bunch of programs that you can sign up for as a vendor to arrange all of this. Tesla doesn't have to actually manage all of this, but they made it so there's a monetary aspect, and it wasn't like if I refer someone, I get 3 months FSD for free, or I get 10,000. Like they made it so it was cash. You would already see what you see with Athletic Greens, what you see with Audible, what you see with this. You would already see that happening today.
Is that basically how? Sorry, go ahead.
But I mean, I was just gonna say, but you don't see that because Tesla doesn't give cash out today.
Is that how those ad reads work for Athletic Greens, etc.? They just pay you for click throughs, and for, like, there isn't like a base sum they give you just for doing the ad read?
Well, it's basically like, here's your link. If you refer someone, if someone clicks on this link and they sign up to be a customer and they deposit X amount, or an Athletic Greens example, if they buy one of these packs, you get X amount of dollars. Maybe it's rev share sometimes for smaller programs. It could be like, if it's a $200 product, you get 50% of the revenue. Or if it's 100, so whatever, depending on what plan they buy, you get a percentage of the revenue as an affiliate commission. But in most cases, for simplicity, it'll be like, you get $20 per every customer that you refer in. And so if they click on your link, they become a customer. Great, you get X amount of dollars.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah. And so as a content creator, like, obviously I like Teslas. I have a Tesla, so I have no problem putting my referral link in there. But if I'm a content creator, right, and I casually like Teslas, or maybe I have a Tesla, but my content is about basketball, am I really going to promote Tesla's referral link to get 10,000 credits on my Tesla app? Like, that's kind of not worth it for me. I'd rather, if I'm running a business, like you're talking about, these podcasts are legit businesses. If I'm running a legit business and I know I can get $250 instead for every Tesla that I refer, and I just do the math and I go, if I'm getting 100,000 views on every podcast, even if I get 2 or 3 people to sign up and become Tesla customers, that's like $500 per episode that I'm making in addition. So I think if Tesla just switched to a monetary aspect for their affiliate program and not a credit aspect, I think they would make a lot more money. But of course, it would cost them a lot more money as well. So that's kind of the double-edged sword.
I see. And I guess my original sort of supposition there that like these podcasts or this like supplemental media is a better advertising ground than like the original media, like comparing like an NBA podcast to like NBA game or like the ESPN broadcast. Like, what do you think of that? Or do you have any insight into that based on your experience and your knowledge set? Is that kind of like an old media versus new media thing, or?
I think it depends on your goal. If your goal is brand awareness and consideration, then you go broader. Then you go Hyundai advertising NBA halftime or whatever they do with their EV, right?
Yeah.
Then you go broad. If your goal is awareness and consideration, you always go broad. If your goal is conversion and action, meaning placing the order, actually ordering, then you go niche. Then you go very niche. Like right? Like I think the saying is riches are in the niches, because as soon as you can really micro target, like you're talking about podcast versus just general game, I think the level of action that someone is able to take is much higher. If I'm watching a basketball game and I see Hyundai promoting their EV like they always do, or Kia or whatever it is, in hockey it's Hyundai. Uh, I'm not going to go scan the QR code, Google their models or whatever from there. I'm just going to kind of have that imprinted in my head as a branding thing. Like, okay, I
Man,
guess they're
I've never even paid attention to it. It's like you just hit mute
Yeah.
on your, when you're watching it on your, just hit mute and then alt tab to whatever else you were doing when it goes to the commercials. So to me, it just seems like a complete waste of ad spend on their account. But then on the other hand, like there's tons of creators I've listened to who've advertised stuff that's actually compelling, and that have like Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is a great example. Like tons of people I'm sure have looked into that legitimately.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
It's
that
also,
was the main thing I was curious about, wanted to mention to you. But go on, sorry.
It's also, I mean, it's interesting you say that, like you mute it, right? Because a lot of people will mute the ads when it comes to, their TV shows or sports. But there's also a degree of, when you're in conversation for media buying, there's also a degree of who else is advertising there. And can we have brand association with those other brands by putting our brand there? And so it's almost like a one-to-one. Like sometimes you'll make media buying decisions as a company, and I've seen this, not based on the performance, but based on, can we get our brand next to another brand in people's heads, right? So if we know XYZ companies advertising a lot in this channel, we know performance is going to suck, but we are going to place our brand right next to them, and we're going to create that association of our brand being of the same quality of their brand. So media buying, although to us also should always seem like an ROI perspective, sometimes the ROI timeline is just sprung out to 3 or 5 years, and it's hard to measure. And those are what we call branding ads, consideration ads. When it's a very micro action-based campaign, those are called our action-based campaigns, or our conversion-based campaigns, right? So should Tesla do it? I think Tesla, to answer your question though, in a general sense, if Tesla just makes their affiliate program monetarily cash-based, I think all of this will happen organically. They don't need to push anything.
They could throw the sweepstakes in there too. Like you click my link, like in addition to whatever this is, we're entered to a chance for both of us to win a Tesla.
Yeah, something like that. And you know who could promote that? Mr. Beast, right? He's always giving away Teslas, right?
Yeah.
Right
Anyway,
on.
that was the main thing I wanted to ask you about. Like you were talking about like India, I guess, let you get back to it, or the previous train of thought was.
Well, I saw your comment about how many Model Ys you think they can sell in India. Do you have a general sense of that?
I don't. I mean, I think you would know more than I do, but my just general guess was like India is way, way bigger than Germany. I think Germany averages like 50,000 Model Ys a year, but like it seems just with whatever that upper middle class is in India, maybe it's the same size as the class of people who can buy Model Ys in Germany, maybe. But like so much other work has to go into it, because first there's the tariffs, then there's like superchargers, right? And then there's service and all that. But I think the last comment I left about it is just, I think that's probably the deal that they're trying to make. Like let us sell Model Ys to wealthy Indians, and in exchange we'll build a battery factory and a mega pack factory in India. And then a Model 2 is probably much further down the line, because like say the Model 2 comes out and it's 25,000, like the market for that in India is still relatively small, right? Because I mean the average selling price for a car in India is like,
it's tiny,
much lower than that. And then that's beyond the fact that like the probably the best transportation option in countries like India is probably still just like two-wheelers, rickshaws,
motorcycles,
that sort of stuff.
bikes.
It's just like the legacy of these cities have been around since way before large vehicles, so they're just not designed to accommodate them. And then also it's like any kind of, when you're in a tropical environment, any kind of like open air thing like that is just much more it's much more feasible to use. You don't have to worry about feeling cold or whatever, or snow. So
Yeah. Well, I think what a lot of people miss is when Tesla enters a market, it's not like they can just sell cars and that's it. Like you said, they have to set up the charging network. When they set up the charging network, that means someone has to maintain that charging network. That's hard enough. And now you add in the fact that India's grid is an absolute gong show. Power can go out at any point of time. And so now you add in that aspect to it. It just seems counterproductive for them to scale in a country like that when the grid just sucks so much, which then brings in the entire point, like you said, that if anything, Tesla should go in and try to fix the grid for a country like India. They should try to stabilize it by having mega packs around. Solar could be huge in India. And then as a consequence of that, of course, they can electrify their car fleet. Of course, that's fine. But I think we have it backwards if we think that Tesla should come in and scale the crap out of their car business there, when really, I mean, first principles thinking would tell us that let's fix the grid first before we even talk about electrifying India fully. So as much as I'd like to electrify a country like India, like of course India and greenhouse gas emissions that countries like India and China contribute are massive. Really, I think if we brought stability to the grid for the citizens of India, that's a much better benefit.
In a place like India, most of those greenhouse gas emissions aren't really coming from vehicles; they're coming from their grid. So
Yeah,
again,
exactly.
it goes to mega packs. But then in the short to medium term, like I really see that Tesla is probably trying to pry open as many markets as possible and reach every untapped pocket of Model Y demand. And I think that's partly because like slow down the consumer's hurting in China, and probably to a lesser extent Europe. But like we see the stuff about them hiring for deployment in Chile, and who knows how many of those other like sort of second world markets there are that they're going to start getting into. But I expect us to see more and more of that, and that's stuff that's going to like fly under the radar. But partly why that's happening, why that's mobilizing, is they got to figure out where all these Model Ys and Model 3s from Shanghai are going to go. Because I think there's going to be a period where like the sales, the consumer buying in India is going to soften, or not India, in China is going to soften, because they're like they've reached this like Japan in the 1990s moment where they're just like going into this deflationary spiral. At least I've seen a lot of analysis that suggests that, and I'm convinced of it. So like the overall car market in China is gonna weaken, and so that's going to be their export hub for that reason.
I think the thing with China though is that the government always steps in. Like you see these ghost cities that China has made just to stimulate their economy, just to make sure that people have jobs. They've built these cities with zero purpose to only tear them down as a way that they could boost up their economy, at least on paper. So the thing with China is that because they are an authoritarian regime, they can do whatever they want to pad up their numbers, in not the same way that Japan could have as a democracy. So there's certain aspects here that I look at with China, but that's not to say that China's not a risk, because I think they are. But I just think it's been bad in China for a long time, a lot longer than we like to think. But yes,
I mean, counterpoint to that is that because China has like really strict capital flight controls, like so much more of the Chinese like consumers or average Chinese person's savings was tied up in that real estate market that crashed than in Japan.
Right.
And Japan was able to do this thing with desourcing that I don't think the Chinese will ever really be able to do. So, yeah.
Great top. Yeah. Interesting discussion for sure. Yeah. Appreciate coming on, Tony. Thanks, man. Always great to talk with you.
Peace.
Take care. Give it up for Tony. Always coming in, bringing a good discussion, good juju in the chat. I see a lot of discussion about energy, India. Sanju says here that the roads can't handle Tesla yet. They need modernization. Grid storage and energy stability should be prime focus for the government before inviting Tesla. Look, I think I don't know where that goes. Tinelli says Tesla's relationship with India needs to be energy focused. Yes, but here's the thing: a country like India does not want some foreign American company to come in and try to fix their issues. Like the ego is high here, and it's not like they think that like there's a degree of like, oh well, you can't fix it because we haven't been able to, and also if we wanted to, we could do this ourselves. I think there's a degree of that as well. Maybe it says India's population is still much poorer on average, and India seems to be determined only selling cars made in India. 100% tax makes most of the cars impossible to sell. That import tax is insane. Insane. That's not to say that people don't pay for it, though. Trust me, I know for a fact. Like there's a Range Rover story that I'm aware of someone importing into India. So it happens. Trust me, it happens. Per Johan thinks, I think North Americans are missing the importance of the Tesla strike in Sweden. The union wants to unionize Tesla, and Tesla does not want that. If anyone here has anything to add about the Swedish strike, or Tesla strike in Sweden, I should say, please throw in the chat because context is important. And I'll be the first to admit I don't know exactly the ramifications of that just yet. Tesla doesn't want to spread to Germany and then to the US. Well, I mean, look at Walmart, right? How has Walmart prevented unionization for such a long time? I mean, they have their ways. Maybe says, couldn't Tesla just start building a huge charging network supported by solar panels? That would be a huge help for electrification of the fleet. Yes, correct. I think solar panels actually would work quite well in a lot of places in India. Let's see here. I start up some questions here. Xander is saying, Yash, in your opinion, what will be the catalyst that will cause the next FOMO event for the stock? When do you think that will occur? I want to say it will be the next time interest rates get slower. Interest rates come down. So next time the Fed brings down interest rates, which makes me game theory this and go, well, it's not going to be the actual lowering of interest rates. It's going to be the expectation of lowering interest rates, which would mean it would be the actual inflation numbers coming out very, very dovish. So that's I guess where my game theory is. And notice how my answer was macro based, because as much as I love Tesla and the earnings, but earnings don't look like, the margins don't look like they're going to bottom yet. It's still in that phase of like push. They're not reaping, like all the fruit of Tesla's labor is not ripe yet. It's still green, right? And it probably will be for a little bit here longer. I guess an FSD truther would say it's FSD. End of year, FSD is coming online. It'll be level 5, and that'll be the next massive catalyst. And if I believe the FSD timeline, I would agree. But the thing is, I don't believe the FSD timeline, unfortunately, as much as I want to. And throw in the chat if you disagree. What is your FSD timeline on when FSD level 5, quote unquote, Tesla's first robo-taxi network will go live? Tinelli says that a new poll says 70% of car buyers are not aware of the federal rebate, let alone state rebates advertised Tesla. So look, starting in 2024, the $7,500 federal rebate will come right off the top. And I actually think that will help quite a bit. Let me catch up to the chat here. Sanjay says, I'll share some videos on my driving experiences on Discord for Juju members. Can make your own assessments. That'd be great. Sanjay, actually, you know what's a funny story? I went to India in 2017, okay? And so the driving is so bad there that I decided that I was going to fly 20 minutes or it was like half an hour. I forget how long the flight was. I'd rather fly like 30 minutes, go through security, wait, blah, 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 than drive the 2 hours or 3 hours. I cannot take driving in India. I could not take it. And I guess the fact that we got in a car accident while I was there probably didn't help. But I'm telling you, it is nuts. And it's actually scarring. As a North American pleb, going to India, sitting through traffic, it's too much, man. It's too much. Of course, you probably get used to it. Question says, realistic timeline for Model 2 release? I don't know. Look, like, I'm so confused with this Model 2 because 2 years ago, Q2 earnings call, I think 2021, Elon says everything is about the $25,000 model. Everything is about the $25,000 model. And then we didn't hear about the $25,000 model since then. And now we hear about it from Ron Barrett. So, and then we look at Tesla Model 3 pricing and we go, I mean, Tesla is already close to $25,000 on their model. So I'm just super confused. I think it relates with Mexico and the fact that Mexico, they're kind of putting a halt on while the economy is kind of in this, meandering point. So realistic timeline, I don't know, 2025, 2026. That's not to say that we might not get a surprise out of Tesla China or something with some sort of separated model, but even then, I think the fact that we got the Highland probably pushes that out. 2026 for FSD version 12, the latest Optimus video, Grok in the cars does not move the stock, then nothing will. V12 coming out maybe, but the robotaxi deployment is the key. Matt says 2024 V12 is generally accepted as being solved. 2026 regulatories allow robotaxis. FSD mid to end of next year, says Michael. Marcus keeping it a little bit sane, saying big steps in technological process cannot be predicted or time. FSD is one of them. Be patient. That's why that's generally my perspective. I think because FSD is such a game changer, whether it comes out now or in 5 years from now, won't matter in the grand scheme of things. If FSD can handle India, it's ready for anywhere in the world. Good luck. That's all I'm going to say. Macro, interesting, Xander says. I was thinking you would say FSD or $25,000 car. I'm surprised because it seems Tesla hasn't rallied like the Mega 7 have after the Fed spoke last week. I think because of the unionization scares, like Ron says, and because of that report, I think there was general weakness on Tesla. But also, if you look at Tesla year to date, it's actually quite like Tesla's outperformed. Let me just pull this up. Tesla year to date, more about Tesla. Let's do quarter. Let's do QQQ. So actually, I'll pull this up real quick. If you look at Tesla, oh, hold on, wrong. Right here, Tesla year to date, right? Tesla year to date is up 98%. Oh, hold on, I gotta move my fat head again. Tesla year to date is up 98%. The NASDAQ is up 43%. So with a beta of 2, that adds up, if not more. So it all depends on the way, like at what point are you setting your pivot, right? If you're setting your pivot 6 months from today, like trailing 6 months, I should say, even then Tesla's up with a beta of 2, right? Tesla's up 30%, NASDAQ's up 15%, totally lines up. Now, of course, I think if you do the month, it's quite weak, right? The last month, Tesla is down 11%, while the NASDAQ is up 2, right? So about a 15% difference there. So all of that to say is I think Tesla generally is in line with macro, even though it doesn't feel like it lately. But I look at macro because as soon as macro turns its ugly head over and we get to a point where it's macro that we go, okay, interest rates are stabilized, if not looking to come down. The recessionary talks are ahead of us right now, but as soon as we're in that recessionary talk and we go, we had a recession, it's not that bad as originally feared, but yet the Fed still needs to lower interest rates. I think that's the start of the next bull run. The bear case to this is the recession is so ugly, industries get wiped out, legacy companies get wiped out, interest rates continue to stay high longer than normal because of inflationary stickiness like gas or rents or shelters. And then from there, we have this lull for about 18 months, 12 to 18 months, where we look at the economy and go, economy sucks, housing sucks, everything sucks. And for about 12 to 18 months, it's ugly. And then we get out of it. That's more of the bear case, I think. Either way, we're going to get past it. Whether it's a soft landing or a hard landing, we'll get past it. And actually, Wolfgang puts it perfectly. If in doubt, zoom out. Exactly. But that's where my primitive dumb brain is still thinking. Like I'm not thinking about Tesla EPS for next quarter as much as I'm thinking about economy and general macro data points, to be honest. Now that's not to say Tesla doesn't matter of what they're going to do in the next couple quarters here. I just think if Tesla beats on EPS by 10%, I don't think we're in that same level of like, oh, Tesla's going to soar 30% because of it. Now, I still think Tesla sticks around this level for a little bit. If I pull up Webull actually real quick, you'll see Tesla stock has not been fun to watch in the last little bit. I'll change this on a monthly basis though. On a monthly basis, Tesla stock, it looks like this, this is a good support zone around this $200-ish level, right? It's not great, the price action. These are monthly candles, by the way. Some of these COVID shut down, split announced, S&P inclusion, Shanghai. I actually think this Shanghai one is wrong. The Shanghai one is down here. But, you get the point. It's been a wild ride. We've seen way lower. Will Chicken Genius be right with the 60? What's his price target? 60 something bucks. So we'll see. We'll see. Let me just catch up with the comments here. Interesting comment here. For perspective, Tesla was at the same price same price September of 2020. Let me just pull that up on Webull. September 2020. Yeah, of course, right? Because S&P inclusion price 695 or 695. Yeah, I think 695. Yeah, I mean, for sure, Tesla's at the same price. A lot has happened since then. Right? Tony says, I think stagflation we're in is primarily due to higher energy costs and will remain that way until the war ends and Russian oil is reallowed or we complete the megapack transition. Yeah, the megapack transition might take a while, but like OPEC, these are essentially mafia organizations that control economic data points for everyone. So for us to put any logic on this, even if the war were to end, I don't think blockades might end. So it's crazy how concentrated power is with regards to oil in a select few hands. And the interesting part is the amount of oil and gas that is exported from North America. And then, anyways, I don't need to get into this whole thing. Anyways, let me sign off here. I hope everyone has a wonderful... Oh, let me play Actually, I'll play the lo-fi as I sign out. Hope everyone has a wonderful week ahead. I will clip parts of this stream out. Again, sorry for not posting for a while. Feeling a lot better now. I'll do my morning car videos as well. So hit subscribe on your way out. Cybertruck, we didn't even get into Cybertruck as much, but of course, as you guys know, in a couple weeks, the Cybertruck event is happening. So I'm excited for that, but I'm not holding my breath for any big action to happen, up or down. I should probably look at the camera, but I look at myself. Much love. Thank you everyone for tuning in for another Sunday live stream. I hope everyone has a happy, healthy, long weekend. Happy Diwali to everyone that celebrates, and go out there, put your phones away, go for a walk, go for a workout, do something positive for your body. Trust me, I've been really neglecting that for the last little bit, and I really need to take my own advice a little bit. But that's just the way it is. It's always easier to give advice to others than to take it to yourself. Much love. I'll clip parts of this stream out. I'll catch you guys on Discord if you're a Juju Gang member. If you're not, patreon.com/hitthatbid. If you are curious enough, for all Juju Gang members in there, I will catch you in there and I'll clip parts of the stream out. Much love. Yash signing off. Take care. Peace.
Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars.